Something very odd and shocking happened to me. I usually lurk on Animal, K, Out, History, and R9K, but I can't post this on any of those. I was thinking of posting on Animal or Out, but thought they would direct me here regardless. To summarize, I saw something spectacular that has terrified me and my pals since it happened. The memory has been carved into my brain for the most part, so everything should be accurate. Though I might be paraphrasing our dialogue a little bit. Not enough to change any of what actually happened though. This occurred about a month ago, so I guess I'll get right into it. Be me, 25-year-old army vet, living in the boonies of the wooded South Central Kentucky. Enough forest and woods to spend a whole life walking through. Be turning 26 soon, so in a good mood. Decide to go on a camping trip with some friends on a spur of the moment decision. Call my guys together, 3 other dudes, we'll call them Samuel, Dylan, and Cristo. We had a place that we always go camping to, probably not after this. For reference, it's definitely in the Barron County jurisdiction. Get supplies ready, 4 coolers, 2 small tents, a lot of beers and snacks, and 3 blunts. Cristo gets in his truck, picks up the other guys, and comes to my place to pick up me and the supplies. Hell yeah, .png. Put supplies in the back with Dylan and sit in the truck. In between Cristo making jokes or doing something stupid, we're always quiet while focusing on something. So, truck rides, setting up camp, or working in general always has an awkward silence for us. We're some loud fuckers too. Drive out to the middle of nowhere and walk up a very long, crude trail us and some other guys made a way back when we were seniors in high school. Finally arrive at our spot after probably an hour of walking. After a while, our tents are up and everything else is ready. Cristo grabs the 4 coolers and we all sit on some logs around what will be our firewood when night comes. It's only 4:30 p.m. right now. Grab some beers and start cracking around, just general fuckery. So Anon, what are you gonna do for your big 26? Says Samuel. Before I get the chance to say anything, Cristo pops off. Ask Veronica, my GF. She's the one who's always deciding. Real funny, oh my sides.jpg. For some reason, my friends call me pussy whipped, and it's a running joke with them. Cue my sarcastic laughing and the rest of them cracking up. Something you should know about Cristo. He's a Mexican, but a full-blown American-loving Trump-supporting rebel boy. He's a complete Chad, and though he's the biggest party animal you've ever seen, he's a very hard worker. He's 250 and well over 6 feet of pure muscle and jackassery. Cristo's almost never serious, but when he is, don't take it lightly. Back to it. Shut up and give me another beer. He obliges. Now hold on a minute. Samuel goes as he pulls on one of the big beautiful blunts. Don't drink anymore. Why don't we spark up? I thought we were saving those for tonight. I reply. Hell, we'd still have 2 left. He says. I look at Cristo and Dylan. They don't have an issue with it. Alright, I guess. I put my beer down and Samuel lights it up. Samuel's a little guy, no more than 5'4" and about 130, but he's a hell of a heavyweight. Me and Cristo hardly ever smoke, and this would be Dylan's first time. Samuel lights it up and, of course, hits it first, and second, and third. After like 4 times, Cristo takes it from him and hands it to Dylan. Dylan's a bit hesitant. In between Samuel's laughing, he says, Come on, Dylan, don't be a pussy. Hit it. Your first time's the best. Dylan, you don't have to hit it if you don't want to, Cristo says. Nah, I got this. Dylan hits it, then the fucker hits him. Dylan's an average height guy, about around 300 pounds and very quiet in public, but a complete jokester in private. Dylan falls over from laughing so hard. Me and Cristo keck about it, Samuel's red face on the fucking ground. Dylan, the poor bastard, gets up and hits it again. Immediately on the floor again. Cristo's in tears now and I'm clenching my sides. I think Samuel's are in orbit. Eventually hands it off to me. I hit it twice and cough a little. Give it to Cristo. He takes it better than I did. After passing it around for a bit, it's just a roach, so Samuel supermanned it and we sat around and chilled out. Checked my phone and it's already 6. Told my friends and they were as shocked as I was. It only felt like minutes since we had gotten everything set up at 4:30. Decide to rip into the other 2 blunts. Once we're done with them, we get back to chilling out. Cristo says he has to piss and walks over to the trees. Guys? Cristo says with a weary voice. We look in his general direction. Guys? He exclaims. We rush over to him to see what's up. The bastard flings around his dick and pisses on us. Bastard. Pissed on us. As a joke, this Mexican really pissed us off. We were pissed on and we were pissed. We tackle him to the ground and wrestle him. It was nothing malicious though. He was laughing the whole time and kept calling himself R. Kelly. We get back over to the campsite and light a fire as it's beginning to get dark. Me, Dylan, and Samuel take our piss-covered shirts off and throw them at Cristo. He, being the Einstein that he is, throws them into the fire. Dylan annoyingly states, "Cristo, you fucking idiot. Now the whole place is gonna smell like piss." "Here," Cristo says as he takes off his shirt and throws it into the fire. We all laughed at how dumb Cristo was. After fucking around a bit more, once we sober up, we get tired. It was definitely after 11 p.m. once we decided to go into the tents to sleep. Samuel and Cristo called one tent, so I'm stuck in the other with Dylan. Surprisingly enough, it gets hot in a small tent with a fat guy like Dylan. Decided to take my sleeping bag and lay beside one of the logs around the campfire. I remember, before dozing off to sleep, hearing Cristo and Samuel tell some shitty jokes, but laughing to them nonetheless. This is when the worst, most terrifying event in my life happened. Of the years I spent in Afghanistan, dodging mudslime bullets and watching my friends die by my side, nothing I've ever experienced, or Lord willing will experience, have or will ever compare to what happened next. I'm literally shaking typing this because of how terrifying redawning upon the awful memory is. I wake up with my head horizontal, sideways, so all I can see is the log beside me. Check my phone. I watch the time switch from 2:31 to 2:32 a.m. Look up and move my torso upwards with my elbows so my head is facing just above the log. To my surprise, I see Cristo with his mouth gaped open looking up and over at something. Also see Samuel sitting on a log with his mouth open too, looking in the same direction. "What's going on?" I said, rubbing my eyes. My question was replied to with a cold silence. I annoyingly get up to look in the direction they were looking at. This was what I can only describe as an evil confusion. I felt absolutely shocked whenever I saw what this fucking thing was. The top of this organism was a crude sphere, which I'm guessing was its head, though it could have also been its torso. Its head was just below the canopy of the forest. On what I'm saying is its head, I couldn't see any orifice. Directly below, what I'm loosely calling its head, was its legs. Yes, if the top of the creature was its head, that its head was attached to its legs. It had 3 legs, 2 in the front, 1 tailing behind. As it walked, these monstrous legs stayed notably and oddly straight, but did bend like a knee would. Its skin is the hardest part to explain. What I can best offer is that its skin was gray and tarp-like, like plastic, but not like plastic. It's hard to explain. It was similar to what you would see on an elephant or a seal, I guess. It looked like if you scratch it, it would make a noise like a fucking knife to a blackboard. The abomination was walking not necessarily at us, but to our 8 o'clock position. Cue a very deep and loud, what I'm going to call humming. It was fucking loud and deep, made the ground vibrate. I knew it was coming from this creature, but it was so loud, it was almost as if it was coming from the sky. After what I'm liberally calling 2 steps to our 8 o'clock position, I heard a zipper as Dylan opens the tent he was in and steps out. He walks to directly beside me and is still sitting Samuel. His mouth is wide open as well. Given our location and how big this fucking monster was, we've come to call it the Kentucky Colossus. The Colossus was now probably 35 to 40 feet away from us. I still can't tell how much land this thing was clearing with each step. 4 full-grown men, well over 20 years old, just stand and sit in shock and watch as this monster inches or yards towards us. We could tell that if it didn't change its walking trajectory, it wouldn't touch us or our camping tents or fire. It walks as close as it ever was to us, about 10 feet away from Cristo, who was absolutely dwarfed. I can't tell if it noticed us or not. The fucker just walked. For its size, the Colossus' footsteps were a lot quieter than you would expect, especially compared to the humming noise it made. As it takes another step forward, Cristo keeps staring at it. It's almost as if we couldn't look away from it. Not that I was making any effort to look away from it. Me and the boys were dead set on looking at this thing. After more steps away from our direction, Cristo turns and looks at us. He starts crying. I started crying. I don't know if it was confusion or anxiety or what, but soon Samuel started crying too. Somehow, Dylan kept his cool and did as much as he could to console us. Of course, he was as petrified as we were, but he didn't cry at all. I remember in between the crying asking, "What the hell was that thing?" I obviously didn't get a coherent response. We sat there, huddled around, and hugged each other. None of us went back to sleep. After we settled down, I decided to ask Cristo and Samuel, "Did you two not sleep at all last night?" "Huh? Why?" Samuel responds. I go on. "When I had woken up, I saw you two awake. You were Oh," Cristo let out. No, I'd woken up and wanted to smoke, so I grabbed a pack of cigarettes out of Samuel's pants and it woke him up. Oh, okay. But when did you two see it? I respond. Cristo continues. That's what I was getting to, asswipe. Since I got caught, I asked Samuel if I could smoke and if he wanted to join me. He said yes to both. He lit us and I handed him one. I told him I was gonna check on you. I unzipped the tent flag and went out. I was fidgeting with the cigarette and lighter, and once I got it lit, I hit it and looked up. He froze up. That's when I saw it. He was beginning to get a bit choked up. I went to yell out Samuel's name, but it came out as a whimper. Regardless, he heard me and asked, "What?" He looks over to Samuel. Samuel asked. I asked what about 2 more times before I went out the tent to see Cristo standing still, looking off into the distance. I looked up at him and started walking forward. I had my eyes focused on his head and asked what he wanted. By the time I was beside him, I looked away in the direction that his head was, far off in the distance. I saw it. How far? Asked Dylan. Probably several hundred feet, Samuel replied. I collapsed and hit my ass on the log. He paused for a moment. I went to get you, but I couldn't. It was the most petrifying thing I ever felt. It wasn't like I was paralyzed. I was just choosing not to move. It was weird. Cristo puts his hand on Samuel's shoulder and continues for him. You woke up, eventually. And then, once the humming started, Dylan woke up. We mostly sat around, huddled in silence, constantly looking over our shoulder. We really hadn't spoke too much about it itself while we were huddled with each other by camp. It was mainly a pep talking like, we're gonna fucking make it through the night, or something like, if it comes back, we're not freezing up. We're gonna grab a flashlight and run down the trail. At around late 4, early 5, the sun began to rise. It was the most beautiful thing we'd ever seen. We unassembled the 2 small tents, grabbed the coolers, and sat down the trail. A little bit of chit-chat down the trail, but mostly silent. For some reason, while we were walking down the trail, we were afraid once we reached the beginning, Cristo's truck wouldn't be there. Eventually we get there, and lo and behold, Cristo's truck is there. We throw everything into the truck bed, including Dylan, and set off down the road. But in the truck, I think all of us were waiting for someone to bring it up. Finally, after about 15 minutes into the ride, Dylan poked his head through the rear window and said, So, we all definitely saw the same thing, right? We were silent for a second, but Cristo said, You all saw a giant gray 3-legged creature. Samuel and I said yes. We all heard the loud deep humming noise it made, I asked. The other 3 said yes. I began to ask, Should we tell any? No, Cristo said in a very matter-of-fact manner. That'd be a good way to get us all locked up in a nut house. Dylan agreed with him. Samuel remained silent. After more silence, Cristo continued. We don't tell anyone. No other friends, no family, no girls or hookups. This stays between us. Cristo looked at us. We have to be clear on this. Okay, guys? We agreed. For the car ride and a bit after, Cristo acted really odd. When we got to a gas station, Cristo went to fill up his truck. When we got back out, another Mexican walked up to him and complained about the Confederate flag he had on his truck bed. I didn't know we had white supremacists. You know they hate people like you and me, so why are you waving their flag? Usually, Cristo would have clowned on him or pushed him and told him to fuck off. Cristo just dead stared at the guy and said, Go. It was really creepy. He got back in his truck and drove us all to my house. All of us stayed at my place over the weekend and played video or just fucked around. It got brought up a few more times, but the whole time we were at my house, there was a really awkward vibe. Every time I think of the Colossus, it gives me cool chills. I wanted to ask around to friends and co-workers, but I'm gonna stay loyal to the oath we took. From what I know, none of the other guys have brought it up to anyone else, so I'm taking it here. Have any of you ever seen or heard anything of what I'm talking about? I look up all the details, but I get nothing. Any local folklore or just stories that sound anything like what I witnessed? Or if you've seen what I'm talking about, please tell me your experience, or even a friend's experience. Any other forums or places you could all report me to? I'll answer any questions. We just need to find this shit out.